Our other top story of the day, the Karen Reed murder trial is officially underway. Both sides delivered opening statements this morning, and the prosecution quickly called its first witness. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Paula Eben. Karen Reed is accused of hitting her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her car and then leaving him to die in the snow. This morning, both the prosecution and defense had the opportunity to lay out their versions of the case.
Who are the ones who find what the facts, I reiterate that, facts, and what the evidence demonstrates in this case. And what I submit to you at that time, that second time, is that the only true and just verdict based on that is that the defendant, Karen Reed, is guilty of murder in the second degree, striking the victim, Mr. O'Keefe, with her car, knocking him back onto the ground, striking his head on the ground, causing the bleeding in his brain, swelling, and then leaving him there for several hours in a blizzard, with temperatures in the teens, wind swirling around, snow piling up on his body until she comes with Mrs. McCabe and Mrs. Roberts just after 6 a.m. And that she is also guilty of vehicular manslaughter, operating under the influence of liquor, and that she is also guilty of leaving the scene after causing death.
The Commonwealth will not be able to successfully dispute any of those facts, yet I expect that they will persist in asking you to convict Karen Reed anyway. You will learn that there are other major problems with the Commonwealth's theory. You'll learn that when John O'Keefe was found, he did not look like he had been hit by a car. You'll learn that he looked to have been attacked and beaten up. You'll learn that John O'Keefe was a large 6'2" man who, if positioned behind a Lexus SUV, would have had his torso completely exposed to the rear of that vehicle, including to the taillight. You'll learn that no part of his torso was injured. There was no bruising, no ridges, no scratches, no punctures. You'll learn that his chest and hips and legs were pristine, despite the Commonwealth's contention that he was hit by a 6,000-pound vehicle.
Now, as members of the jury begin to hear from witnesses in the case, we want to bring in WBZ I-Team Chief Investigator Cheryl Fiandaca, who is also an attorney, by the way, to talk about opening statements given by both legal teams. Such an enormous amount of focus on this case, Cheryl. A lot on the line. Tell us about the opening statements this morning.
Well, you know, the opening statements, the judge came out first and talked to the jury and basically said the opening statements are not evidence. It's what the prosecution's version of the case is and what the defense version of the case is. So she's allowing them to take notes during the trial. She's giving them notebooks. They have to leave the notebooks there, but she didn't give them the notebooks for the opening statements because it's not evidence. Anything that either side says at this point in the trial should not be something that the jury would consider.
Right. This is how they're framing the case, creating a narrative.
Right. Exactly. It's their version of the story. So you heard them come out and say, this is what they believe happened, where they went to this bar, then they go to the house, and he ends up, you know, being frozen in the snow during a blizzard, and the prosecution believes that she hit him with the car and drove away. And now the defense is basically saying that that's not what happened at all, that he did go into the house, that he believes, that they believe that there was some type of a disturbance, and he was injured or beaten, and the dog may have bit him. And all of that is just all of their theory of the case until they put the witnesses on the stand and until the witnesses testify as to what they saw and heard. That is all evidence, and that's all the evidence that the jury can consider.
So the first witness was called. This is John O'Keefe's brother.
Right.
Did anything in particular stand out to you about anything from this morning?
Well, it's interesting. You know, you put the brother on the stand first. It's very emotional. This is his brother. He went to the hospital. He saw his injuries. He heard Karen Reed ask repeatedly, is he alive? Is he alive? The prosecution's going to say at that point she knew that she had done something and killed him. The defense is going to say she's concerned for her boyfriend and wanted to know if he was okay.
As a matter of fact, since you mentioned that, the first witness in the case was John O'Keefe's brother, and he gives a timeline here in a soundbite you're going to listen to about when he learned about what happened to his brother and when he saw Karen Reed at the hospital after hearing about his brother's death. Listen.
Yes, my mother called me at 6:40 a.m.
Is that something typical?
No. She called and just said something happened to your brother. They found him in the snow and they took him to the hospital. Doctor and nurse came in and told us that all their efforts to save my brother were unsuccessful and that he had passed away. And then asked if we wanted to go see him, in which we said yes. So we left that room and walked down the hallway to his hospital room. Karen Reed was there. She was being restrained by hospital employees, and she was, screaming out to us, asking if he was alive.
So, Cheryl, it was notable to me, he did point out, when asked by the attorney, they had always had a very good relationship with Karen Reed. He blew her a kiss at the hospital in that emotional moment when they realized that he was dead. So at that point, in those first hours or so of learning of his brother's death, they were all still fine.
Right. At that point, she's not charged with anything. No one really knows what happened. All they know that he was found in the snow and he has now passed away. So at this point, they don't have any animosity at all.
Right.
And in fact, he says during his testimony that they had a good relationship, that he liked her.
And really admired what she was doing to help John O'Keefe with his children.
Exactly, yes. And telling her parents that he thought that she was good for him, she was a good role model for the kids. So all of that will be taken into consideration. Now, his testimony is not finished with the prosecution, and then the defense has the opportunity to bring all that back out to light. So it'll be some back and forth until the picture starts to clear up a little.
We begin with never-before-seen police dash cam video showing murder suspect Karen Reed in the moments after her boyfriend's body was found in the middle of a blizzard back in 2022. In that video, you can hear Reed screaming. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Lisa Hughes.
And I'm David Wade. That video capped off the first day of testimony in this high-profile murder trial. WBZ's Christina Rex was inside the courtroom for day one. And Christina, very busy first day.
Yeah, Lisa and David, that video was the absolute last thing that jurors got to see in this busy first day of this trial. We had opening statements from both prosecution and defense, and then 3 witnesses took the stand today. Here's some of what we learned.
All right, good morning.
Karen Reed's trial begins with opening statements. The prosecution,
The relationship's out.
painting the picture of a relationship in decline, ended in the moment Karen allegedly struck John O'Keefe with her car and left him to die in the cold. Attorney Adam Lally explaining through a list of dozens of witnesses expected to appear at trial.
All of this is in relation to Brian Albert and Nicole Albert's son, Brian Albert Jr.
Next, the defense gave its version of a deliberately botched investigation.
By a minimum of 4 officers looking for evidence was 0.
An impassioned delivery insinuating that someone other than Karen killed John. And
Karen Reed was framed for a murder she did not commit.
the reply to that statement outside the courthouse, where Reed's supporters cheer in a sports-like atmosphere watching on live stream. Back inside,
Truth so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Paul O'Keefe is the first witness to take the stand. He's the only O'Keefe child still living.
Did you have any siblings?
2, yes. My sister Kristen. And, brother John.
Paul told jurors he saw Karen in the hospital hallway the day of the alleged murder. She was screaming, asking if John had died.
I actually blew her a kiss.
And Paul's wife, Erin, testified that she and Karen were good friends. She recounted a phone call with Karen in the hours after John's body was found.
Asked her, I said, what the hell happened last night? She told me that she had to remember the bad times, which struck me as an odd comment to say. She said, I don't think I'm ever going to see you guys again.
And there was one individual that replied several times, I hit him, I hit him.
What was the question that she asked?
Is he dead?
What did Karen Reed say to police and paramedics right after her boyfriend, police officer John O'Keefe, was found dead in a Canton snowbank? Of course, she's now on trial for his murder. And today, her defense team grilled first responders on her exact phrasing and tone from that morning. Today in court, Reed's lawyers had a chance to cross-examine first responders who were among the first people at the crime scene. And Courtney Cole's here now in studio with us. And Courtney, her team says those witnesses are actually helping their case.
Now, David, it all comes down to the details, and Karen Reed's legal team zeroed in on inaccurate addresses and times in police reports suggesting a cover-up. What did Karen Reed say?
She was emotional,
Yes.
upset,
Yes.
focused on John,
Yes.
trying to save his life,
Yes.
and asking, what was the question that she asked?
Is he dead?
From Canton police to responding paramedics, that was the focal point, the question they were expected to answer on the stand in day 2 of testimony in the Karen Reed murder trial.
I don't know who it was.
Reed is accused of killing her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, and leaving his lifeless body in a snowy Canton front lawn the morning of January 29th, 2022.
As I was ventilating, I was able to ask, did anybody see anything? Did anybody, what happened? And there was one individual that replied several times, I hit him, I hit him.
First responders recounted seeing Reed with blood on her face after she gave John CPR. Then they say she admitted to hitting him. And on another day of first responder testimony, the defense started to suggest that pieces of Karen Reed's tail light were not actually at the scene, but planted later.
Certainly didn't see 45 pieces of broken plastic or tail light material, did you?
No.
The defense also asked the paramedic if he thought John's injuries could be from a fight and not a car. He said he couldn't say. As they left court, Reed's team says they believed the prosecution's witnesses actually helped Karen Reed.
Jury has heard so far every witness talk about the care that Karen gave to John, how upset she was.
And day 3 of the Karen Reed trial featured more of the witnesses who responded to the scene the day Boston police officer John O'Keefe died. The testimony largely focused on what Karen Reed said at the scene and what people did to try to save John O'Keefe.
At that point, I asked her if there had been any significant trauma that happened before this.
What, if anything, did she say?
So she said, I hit him. She repeated it. There was a woman standing across from her who I believe at that point said, you're hysterical. You need to calm down. You're hysterical. She repeated, I hit him. And there was a police officer who was in that vicinity kind of with us who replied, you what? She repeated it one more time. And that officer then signaled to somebody, get Goody down here, which I'm assuming would be the sergeant.
Attempting to do CPR, but due to the erratic behavior, she was running back and forth between the other female on scene and the body, back and forth, trying to press on his chest, wake him up, talk to him, just to no avail. So the only response that I was personally given was just, I hit him, oh my God, I hit him.
She was just acting kind of erratic and kind of running around screaming different things.
And as far as the different things that she was screaming, what, if anything, do you recall specifically hearing her screaming when she was running around?
It was just something like, he's dead.
So we heard from a total of 4 witnesses today before court officially ended. Tomorrow, the jury will be visiting the scene where Officer John O'Keefe died. So we want to bring in WBZ I-Team Chief Investigator Cheryl Fiandaca, as usual, to give us a breakdown of what happened in court. Cheryl is also an attorney, by the way. One thing of note, at the beginning of the week, they were going at a pretty good clip, talking to a lot of witnesses, and it seemed a little bit slower today.
A little bit slower, and a lot of the same testimony. You heard a lot about what she said at the scene, why it wasn't in reports, when people started to talk about what they said, she said. So it started to get a little slower there, and this trial is going to go on for quite some time. Yeah. I think the prosecution has about 87 witnesses that they're saying they're going to call. The defense talking about 77. Some of those people may be the same people. So this trial could go on for at least 6 or 8 weeks.
Wow, a lot to get through. And also, Cheryl, you noted there was an important ruling today that has to do with this case.
Right. I mean, as everyone knows, this case has been super controversial, and it's had a lot of interest from folks, protesters, people demonstrating both for Karen Reed and saying that she's been framed. So the judge put a buffer zone in effect, a 200-foot buffer zone, and saying that also not to use any megaphones to try to shield the jury from any kind of outside influence. The Supreme Judicial Court ruling today that that buffer zone stays in effect.
So the buffer zone is fine. Anyone who drives in the area of Dedham Square will pass by and see that any people who are there to demonstrate are further down the street from the courthouse and not right in that vicinity. Right. What else struck you about the testimony so far this morning? It's only a half day again today.
Right, another half day today. You know, I think that, you know, both sides are trying to get their points out. You know, that she seemed, you know, the defense is saying she seemed distraught, that she was hysterical, that if she said the things that they say she said them because she was, you know, hysterical, thinking that somehow she was a part of what happened here. And the prosecution's looking at it saying, no, this is what's called under the law excited utterances, which is basically she said something that was against her interest in this case, saying that I hit him, I killed him. Those are all the things that they're trying to say, well, if that's what she said, if that's what they said she said, then maybe that's what happened.
Then it's admissible. And you picked up on the fact that some of the first responders remembered that she said those things and others didn't.
And others didn't. And also, you know, they made a big deal on both sides of saying whether it was in the report, when they said it, when they heard it, if they could have. They showed some video that appeared to show that maybe the one of the first responders wasn't near where the scene was when she allegedly said what she said. So they'll go back and forth with this, and that's why I think it's taking quite some time, because it's not, a lot of it is just details.
But it's crucial, right?
It's crucial for both sides, yep.
Right now on WBZ, returning to the scene of the crime, the jury in the Karen Reed case is currently touring the Canton Road where Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found dead more than 2 years ago. And Reed just told reporters she believes it'll help her case.
We get a very good perspective.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jordan Jagalinzer in today for Paula Eben. Before the trip, a Canton firefighter testified, and as WBZ's Penny Commit shows us, the defense tried to discredit her story.
We heard testimony from just one witness today, a Canton firefighter who was present the moment that John O'Keefe's body was found. Now the jurors are headed out to Canton to see the crime scene for themselves.
He said 4 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, correct?
Yes.
Quote, I hit him, shortly after his attorney testimony, claiming that it's changed.
You didn't write it in any report?
No.
You didn't write it in any notes?
No. Respectfully, I think my testimony has been pretty consistent.
Then the defense continued building their case that Karen Reed was framed. Reed's attorneys accused McLaughlin of having personal ties to other people who were present the night O'Keefe died, including another Boston police officer's family member. The judge appeared uncomfortable with this line of questioning and called for a short recess.
So do you know Caitlin Albert?
I do.
You're friends with Caitlin Albert?
I would say more acquaintances, not close friends.
Today, the jurors will spend some time out in Canton, taking a walk through the property where John O'Keefe's body was found. Then they'll come back to the courtroom for more testimony. In Dedham, I'm Penny Commit, WBZ News.